Welcome to the First Friday Entrepreneurship Call with K-State Research and Extension. This project received funding and support from K-State 105, K-State University's Economic Growth and Advancement Initiative for all 105 counties in Kansas. So if you haven't already, we would like to get to know you a little bit better. Please put your name, location, and role in the chat. The purpose of the First Friday e-call is to increase local community knowledge and expert education and economic resources available to help small businesses and communities who love them. As always, the call is being recorded, and you will get the link to the website next week and a copy of the presentation deck. Please let us know why or if this call matters to you. And of course, at the end of this call, there are 3 survey questions that we would appreciate if you would fill out and give us some feedback. 1, what is something you learned today that you can immediately use? 2, how many people will you forward this information to? And 3, what did you learn today that is the most helpful for you? So without further delay, we're going to get kicked off today with All Things Kansas, which is a free interactive tool that features data-driven mapping, reports, insight in all 105 counties of Kansas. Today, our presenters are Jessica Gnad, K-State Director of Economic Development, Jennifer Tidball, our Communication Director, and Greg Erickson, our Data Analyst. So I will turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you so much, Jan. And thank you, Nancy. She's not here today, but all of you are kind of the glue behind these First Friday e-calls, and it's a pleasure to be here. So I think, do we have the slide deck going? Here we go. Perfect. I have a few remarks here for the introduction, and then I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues. So as a next generation land-grant university, K-State's mission is to deliver practical knowledge and real-world solutions, and economic development is no exception to that. One thing we know is that informed communities make stronger decisions, and that is the reason why we created All Things Kansas. It was to give local leaders across all 105 counties in Kansas access to clear, actionable data that supports real economic development. So to that effect, the All Things Kansas is a living platform. It pulls more than 30,000 data layers from over 120 sources to help answer key questions like, what does the workforce look like in my community? Are there childcare gaps in my community? What industries are growing? And how does my access to broadband compare to others across the state? So with that, I'm really excited to introduce my 2 colleagues. We have Jennifer Tidball. She's the Communications Director for Economic Development. And Greg Erickson is our data analyst. And these 2 have been instrumental in the development and really just the tone and what this platform looks like for Kansas State University. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks again, Amanda, Jan, and the whole team. And let's get started with a video.
All Things Kansas is an interactive tool to help you understand all 105 counties across the Sunflower State. Visualize, analyze, and compare trends, identify opportunities, understand communities, and build your business. The website includes more than 30,000 data layers, combining more than 120 national and state sources. Search topics such as economic development, business growth, housing, childcare, healthcare, and more. It's a one-stop shop for Kansas data, saving you time and making information easy to access. And the best part, it's all free, because that's what a next-generation land-grant university does. All Things Kansas is a service that we proudly offer the people of Kansas. Try it out today.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Good morning. As Jessica said, my name is Jennifer Tidball. I'm the Communications Director for Economic Development, and I'm going to stop here. And Greg, do you want to introduce yourself now as well?
Sure, yeah. Yep. I am Greg Erickson. I'm the data analyst associated with this project and work for K-State. And yeah, I'm really excited to kind of get this information out here and hear your feedback as well on what you all think about the platform.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Well, we're so excited to show off this platform. This is something we launched a little over a year ago as a tool, as Jessica mentioned, that can really help folks across the state. We sort of consider it a one-stop shop for Kansas data. And one thing I will share with the group here as well, Greg and I, we like to make these presentations as interactive as possible because we want to make sure that we're showing data and we're demonstrating the platform in a way that all of you will use it. So you'll probably see in the chat, there should be a link to what's called a Mentimeter. If you just want to either click on that link on your computer and fill out a couple data areas that you're interested in and then click submit at the bottom. There's also a slide that we'll show as well that has a QR code. You can scan that QR code and fill out the form that way as well. But what Greg and I will do is we'll pull that up at the end of the presentation here, and we'll use that to kind of drive an interactive demo at the very end so we can show you how to access data that you're interested in. The other thing I'll tell you too here is Greg and I, we're going to spend maybe about 15 minutes here and go through a few slides just to give you guys an overview of the platform. And then what we'll do is we will kind of go back and forth with sharing our screen, and we'll walk you through the platform and how to access different pieces of it, things like that. So just kind of wanted to provide a little structure for how the next hour is going to go. And I think with that, we'll kind of dive into things. So again, as I mentioned, we consider All Things Kansas really a one-stop shop for Kansas data. And really how we're hoping folks will use it is this is a way to access multiple sources in one place. So we know all of you on this call, you are busy community leaders, you're busy business leaders, you're involved in different organizations, and you probably go out and access data in multiple different places. Maybe you go to the Census Bureau, maybe you go to the American Community Survey, maybe there's some, Kansas data that you're trying to access as well. What we've done with All Things Kansas is we're trying to put all of that data in one place. So it's a one-stop shop. You go to this site, you search for the topics that interest you, and you can access all of those different sources in one place. We know that's really helpful for grant applications. And it can also be a good research tool as you're maybe trying to understand your community, how it compares to other communities, pieces like that. You can visualize data, visualize maps. You can also build geography-based reports based on your county or based on different geographic filters. We're also hoping this can help with understanding market demand or identifying opportunities, particularly if you're maybe a business leader and you're wanting to relocate your business or open up another location in your business, expand your business in some capacity. You can use this tool to understand workforce strengths, industry gaps, pieces like that. And what we're really also hoping is that this is a tool to help with informed decision making across Kansas. So as the video mentioned, you can analyze trends, you can compare communities, different pieces like that. The other thing I will mention is we are not the primary data source for the data on here. We are pulling that data, and then when we walk through the platform, we'll show you, we cite where all of the data comes from, we describe it, we link out to that data, all of that, so that if there's a data set that you're really interested in and you want to learn more about, you can go out and explore it further. So yeah. I think with that, I'm going to kind of dig into just some nitty-gritty pieces of the mapping side of the platform, and then I'll hand it over to Greg to talk about the reports piece of it. So again, this will be the URL that you'll use to access All Things Kansas. And you'll see when you get there, there's several options up here at the top. We're going to start with this maps option here on the far left. So there's different pieces of the map feature of All Things Kansas. We have our map room. So when we talk about 30,000 data layers, when you click on that map room, that's going to be the platform where you can explore all of them. It's really very free form, and you can search for keywords and pull up data that way as you want to maybe do some research or comparisons. There's also the map gallery. And this is where we've got several pages of pre-made maps. If you're new to All Things Kansas, the map room can be a little overwhelming. Where do you pick the data set out of 30,000 that you're interested in? So what we've done is we've created this map gallery, and we've created several maps with multiple data layers on topics that we know are relevant to people in Kansas. So things you'll see here: business development, broadband, childcare, water, soil, healthcare. I know I saw healthcare starting to pull up in the Mentimeter there a little bit. So that's kind of where, again, you can explore those pre-made maps. It's a really a good starting place for exploring the platform as well. And then again, when we go into the live demo, we'll go into this a little bit more, but when you pull up a map, this is kind of what you're going to see on your screen. So you'll see counties over on the right side, and then the data layers will be shown here on the left. And again, you'll see how we cite all the sources and everything like that. It provides sort of a legend and describes the data pieces like that. You can add data sets. There's several different tools we'll walk you through. We have a My Maps feature that we're still under development right now. And then we'll also show you how you can export the maps that you access or create. So if you're working on a grant application, we'll walk you through how to export that map maybe as a PDF or a JPEG or different formats like that. And then we'll also show you how there's a way you can share the maps out. So knowing there's some extension folks on the call as well, if you're working on a board report or a report for your county commission or something like that, you can share this link out, and when folks click on it, it will take them to the map. So I think with that, Greg, would you like to talk about reports a bit?
Yeah, we can just kind of dive into it. Yeah, so like Jennifer mentioned, there is a lot of data in the map room and the map gallery as well. And kind of the way I'd recommend using the platform would be to dive into a new topic using the map room or the map gallery and sort of find data that's out there. And as you isolate a topic that you're wanting to explore, maybe you have something in mind, but you want to get a grasp on the data that's out there. Once you get that kind of topic in mind, then I would go into the report gallery and choose one of these reports. It is a little bit more curated. They create kind of statistical abstracts or kind of table and graph summaries of the data, so that can provide kind of a different perspective besides the geospatial perspective. So yeah, there's kind of four main topic areas that we have in those reports. And yeah, I think that's about it for this slide. So yeah, these reports, these are kind of numeric. Oops,
Sorry about that, Greg.
no, you're good. Yeah, and I think something I really like to identify that for the report feature would be the ability to summarize, compare multiple locations. So multiple counties can be put into the same report, and you can understand data regarding that county, but also summate it across multiple counties if you want to kind of understand a geographical region. So we have a couple different regionalizations in there, and I think that's it for this slide. So just kind of the way it breaks down how to use the reports. The first thing you'll do is select a location, and then you'll select, well, first you'll select a topic area, then you'll select a location. After you have your locations identified, then you'll go into your data indicators, and then you can generate a report. So it's kind of a three-step process. After you get that report, you can download it as a PDF Word document. You can also get an Excel file with that kind of raw data out there. And you can share direct links to it as well as print it. And I think I see a question in the chat here, Rhonda. How current is the data? We have data that is current up to 2025. It really depends on the data source. So not every piece of data is updated every year. So this would really be a data dependent kind of situation. But yeah, I appreciate that question. And I will just throw it out there. If anybody has any questions, feel free to interrupt me, unmute and start talking. I don't mind at all. And I really appreciate the feedback we get from these. So just to kind of round this out, I'll add that there's a support tab that has kind of FAQ as well as a little walkthrough for the map room and the report feature of All Things Kansas. So after you're done and you want to go back and maybe you don't want to watch a whole Zoom video or presentation, I would encourage you to use these as kind of a quick intro into the platform. And it looks like we got one more question. I'll just try to answer that really quick. Is data available for regions, or do you have to compile the counties and combine them into a regional report? So we do have some regionalization. For example, the Cardo regions are there on default. We also have congressional districts and Senate districts, I believe, on default. So you can kind of compile those regions yourself, enter counties, or you can select some of our pre-made regionalizations. Thanks for that question, Marilyn. So I'll just kind of, just really quick go through this. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we are actively developing the platform. A couple of highlights on this would be kind of the Kansas data we're adding from the Kansas GeoPortal resource. So this is a data repository. So we've added over 120 Kansas data layers. Currently, we're also working with the United Way to get a data product from the United Way on there. This is Alice data, and this data indicates kind of a subset of the population that's above that federal poverty guideline, but is still asset limited, income constrained, and faces kind of some issues that don't necessarily get a lot of focus because they're above that federal poverty border. So some other data we're throwing on there would be some agriculture data from the USDA, and we also are building up different reports and tools. So we're kind of trying to actively develop this platform. And again, I can't really say it enough. Definitely throw in your 2 cents on this because we'd love to hear what people are actually using it for and how we can develop and add tools that would be really useful for our population of users. But yeah, we've got a Build Your Business page and a County Health Rankings page up there for reports. And yeah, I think we're ready. I'll hand this back to Jennifer, and we can dive into the platform.
All right, thanks, Greg. Sorry, I just got really, really excited to hit on the next slide, so I apologize for kind of cutting you short there at the end.
No, you're good.
But yeah, we are going to I'm going to stop my sharing of the screen right now. And what we're going to do is Greg and I are going to walk you through what we just talked about, so the platform. So we're going to do 2 demos. We're going to do complementary maps and then complementary. So we'll walk you through a childcare map and report first, and then we're going to walk you through a broadband map and report as well. And then again, continue to put your data interests in the Mentimeter there as well, and then we'll pull some of that up at the end and kind of walk through some of that. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen here again, and we're going to switch over to All Things Kansas. Okay, so hopefully everyone is seeing my browser with All Things Kansas pulled up now. I'm seeing head nods. Okay, perfect. So again, to get to the platform, it's all free, easy to access. You just go to this URL right here. You can go to ksu.edu/allthingskansas, allthingskansas.k-state.edu. It's all going to take you to the same place. And what I'll do is, I don't know if you remember during the slides, we talked about the map gallery. So we'll click on maps here. We'll go over to our map gallery. And again, when we were saying, here's all those pre-made maps, here's where you can access them based on different topic areas here. And I won't go through all of them, but you'll see we've got several pages of maps here. So I encourage you after this presentation, go to this page, click through, see what we got. And as Greg mentioned, let us know what we're missing too, because we very much see this as a living, breathing platform that we continue to add data to, we continue to develop, we continue to improve. So we want to make sure we're developing a tool that helps all of you out. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this childcare access and affordability map right here. So we'll click on it. And again, you'll see this pulls up sort of like we showed in the slides there. We've got the map layers and the data on the right over here, and then the data sets over here on the left. So this map is actually showing us 3 different data sets, and it's a really good example of showing point data, which is these child care centers, these green dots you'll see across the state. And then we've also got map layers here that are showing child care cost burden and child care supply and demand. It's also a great example of this map is pulling federal and state data and putting it in the same place. So when I talked about how we are citing all of our sources, this point data of childcare centers, if we click on this eye right up here, this is actually going to pull up that information about the data set. And so you'll see that this actually comes from Department of Homeland Security, was released in 2023, and then it will link out to the data so you can explore more. This childcare cost burden, again, so we click on that right here. This is pulling US Census Bureau data. And then this last layer right down here, this is Child Care Aware of Kansas. So this is pulling that state layer data that we were talking about as well. Click on the eye, it'll show you where you can find more information about that. So what I'm actually going to do is, I know when we joined the call here, we had some folks joining us from Ellis and Mitchell County. So I'm actually going to pull up Ellis County over here, and we're going to kind of dive into what's happening there. But one thing you'll notice with these different data sets that we're displaying is that they all sort of share a similar story, which is, I think, a story that all of us are familiar with. We need more child care across our state. So if we click on Ellis County here, you'll see that it'll actually highlight the county. And then right now we're looking at the child care cost burden of what's happening in Ellis County here. And so when we talk about childcare cost burden, the percentage of your median household income, if more than 10% of your household income is being spent on childcare costs, then that's considered childcare cost burden. So we've got a childcare cost burden of 22% here in Ellis County. We can also deselect that there. You can search for a county down here in the lower part, the lower right-hand corner. So if we want to pull up Mitchell County, we can search for that right now. And hopefully it will. So it is important to have the state located there as well. And it's going to zoom us right on into Mitchell County here. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to deselect over here on the left some of these map layers. And so now what you'll see what we're looking at is we're looking at the childcare supply and demand. So what percentage of the demand in Mitchell County is being met? So again, we click on the county here and it should highlight. Sometimes it takes a little while. Let's zoom out here. Well, there we go. So again, you'll see here happening in Mitchell County, we've got about a childcare capacity of around 190 children aged 0 to 6, but then we also have 335 children in that age range who are needing care. So we're only meeting 57% of the childcare demand for this county. And so what you'll see is, I'm going to zoom back out here. As we start to explore what's happening across the state, by layering these different data layers on top of each other, we kind of start to see, okay, where are some counties throughout the state where maybe there's a bigger opportunity or an area that we can help. And I do want to show one other tool feature that I think will help to illustrate that. So if you highlight several different data layers, and again, we mentioned that there's some tools over here, we click on the tool, and then we click on this swipe feature right here. And I'm going to zoom out real quick here so you guys can follow along. So you see right now we're looking at that childcare supply and demand, that local data. And you'll see that maybe in some of our counties that are that dark maroon, we're only meeting less than 30% of our childcare demand of what's happening in those counties. And so what we can do is we can swipe this over then. And so now we're looking at childcare cost burden. So where are folks throughout the state spending more of their income on childcare costs? And so this is a really great way to kind of dive into trends and what might be happening across the state. The other piece I'll just show you really quickly with this map is, again, we have this export feature here. So if you click on that, if you're working on, again, a grant application, a presentation, or you just, communicators, I think we've got some communicators on this call as well. You just need a graphic to illustrate an issue across the state. Here's where you can do that. You can download it in multiple formats here. And then what else you can also do is there's a share feature down here at the bottom. You click on that, it will actually give you a link here that will, you can share out. And when folks click on that link, it will take them to this map, either the pre-created map or the map that you've created, things like that as well. So I think that is what I wanted to show you with the childcare map. I'm going to turn it over to Greg now and let you kind of let him show the corresponding report that would complement that. So Greg, let me stop my screen share here. Okay, all yours.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'll just kind of jump in here to our reports. Just go into the report gallery to give a quick preview here. But it functions similar to the map gallery where these are kind of overall broad categories that you'll then choose from to generate your reports. So All Things Canvas report is kind of our catch-all report if these other ones don't seem to jump out to you. And I think this is where we have our childcare data. So I'll just go ahead and grab those counties that we mentioned. I think Ellis and Mitchell.
Oh, hey. Oh, wait, Greg, I am seeing your screen. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No worries. Yeah, that got me earlier. I had mine pulled up. So let's see. So I think I got these here. I'll make this a little wider. So we have our locations here, and we'll go ahead and select our indicators. And there's a couple different ways you can dive into these. You can review each individual indicator you might want to select, or you can select kind of these broad categories up top, or you can use a text entry box to search for indicators. So I'll just go ahead and do this button up here for youth and childcare, and we can see some of the indicators we've chosen here. Again, we have that little eye that will let people know, or let you know, where the data is coming from. So, and how recent it is. So we can go and generate our report here, and up top we've got our report locations. It's working on developing the report right now. So we see here kind of a little navigation menu being auto-generated. I'll just go ahead and close that. And we can kind of just go ahead and look at, make sure there's no chats here. Go ahead and look at the reports that are being generated and kind of just walk through this table. So all the tables are laid out in the same general format where the report area would be on the far left here. So we have our report location, and again, that's a summary of the Ellis County and the Mitchell County data. So these two populations are added together, and then you get a total population for that report location, i.e. these two locations. As we look at this table, we can see this total population age 0 to 17, and then a calculated percent of that. So usually the calculated data, it would be on the far right of the table. That data that is calculating from will be around the middle of the table, and then those report locations will always be on the far left. And we can compare these locations against Kansas as a whole, as well as the United States. So just kind of going through a few of these. I'll use the navigation menu maybe. There's quite a few. We'll jump down to some of the data we just saw in the map room. And I'll preview really quickly here. There are some nice graphs and plots that can be generated through the platform. I'll show those off in 1 second. But just to kind of talk a little bit more about how the platform can be used and kind of how to read it. For a lot of these reports, you'll get these tables, and then you'll get kind of an indicator of where the report location is compared to Kansas and compared to the United States. So here, in terms of childcare centers, we have kind of the total childcare centers for our locations. So 5.57 in terms of the rate of childcare centers per 1,000 population under 5. And that's below that Kansas average and below that United States average. So that's why we have a red indicator here, because it's below that average. Some indicators, see if I can find one, might not pop up on this report, but some indicators, will be better than the average. So in that case, that would be green instead of red. And I'll just go ahead and show off a couple more things here. In terms of the maps, so let's say maybe you went to the report first and you generated a report, but you want to go back to the map, you can always click these links, and this will pop you back into the map room so you can look at that data on more of a geospatial context. Let's see here. I think a couple more things I wanted to cover on this one really quickly. Just kind of just to show it off here. The export features do work fairly well and allow pretty good export of data in terms of being able to edit it. So just let me switch over here to my other window. And it takes a hot second to export these, especially when it's a super long report like we just saw. So I exported this earlier before the call, but this is like a 44-page report. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. But you can see here it's generating tables that are pretty easy to edit, pretty easy to copy from. So we kind of see this as maybe useful for people who would use this data for a grant and just want to be able to pull data directly and copy and paste data without too much, kind of workaround. And you can see it's exporting those graphs as well. And it exports them in a nice editable fashion. So you can, edit the labels, for example, directly and those kinds of things. So just want to show that off really quickly. But I think that's about it for childcare. So I'll switch it back to Jennifer here.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And Greg, I'm wondering, I'm trying to catch up on the chat and respond to people, but I'm wondering, we have a question from Tara about data on the state line and populating for the Missouri Metro. And so I might attempt to answer that, but then Greg, please feel free to chime in if I say anything incorrectly. But Tara, so how it's sort of built is if the data set is, say, a Census Bureau data set or American Community Survey, if that data outside of Kansas is available, it will populate the platform, but some of it is very Kansas specific, like that Kansas, the Child Care Aware of Kansas data set. So how the data is reported is how it's sort of brought into the platform. We don't currently have a regionalization for the whole Kansas City metro area. Would that be correct, Greg? Is that kind of feel free to chime in there. I don't want to say anything
Yeah,
incorrectly.
so I'd say the platform has a lot of data that crosses the border. Certainly, like U.S. Census data crosses the border. Some data is exclusive to Kansas, but really depending on the topic, there's probably a lot of data indicators. I mean, there are a lot of data indicators that would show the Missouri data alongside that Kansas side in terms of Kansas City area.
So great. Thanks, Greg. And we'll try and kind of keep tabs on the chat as well as we go through. The other thing I will say is that Greg and Jessica and I are also happy to hop on calls or anything after this presentation as well. If you've got further questions or if you're exploring the platform and have questions about the data, again, this is something we want folks on this call to use. So we're always happy to chat through some of that. I'm going to keep things moving forward, and I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to walk through a similar feature with a broadband map and report. And what I will also say is, as Greg and I have mentioned, there's 30,000 data layers in this platform. We are not experts in all of them. And so I'm going to talk through some broadband, but I know that there's a lot of folks here who work in broadband. And so feel free to chime in if we misinterpret, if we need to provide any additional context for the broadband piece. So again, we're going to go back to our All Things Kansas platform here. We're going to go back to our map gallery. And then we've got this other map here called broadband access. So I'm going to pull this up here. And this map is actually pulling, we've got 4 different data sets with this one. Give it just a little bit of time there to populate. So this first data set we have is federal broadband project areas. So this is FCC funded projects across the state. I'm actually going to deselect that. We also have a data layer here that's showing households with no or slow internet. And so this is American Community Survey data. So this is data that folks are reporting when they fill out the American Community Survey. We've also got a map layer here that's showing broadband providers across the number of broadband providers in different parts of Kansas. So you'll see that here as well. And then the last data layer we have here is showing broadband access. So again, this is FCC data across the state. And what's really interesting about this map, and kind of why I want to walk you through the platform, is each of these data layers, each of these data sets tells its own story. But then what's interesting is when you start to layer maybe some of these data sets, there's a third story that sort of starts to develop. And so I'm going to especially highlight 2 data sets as part of this. So this broadband access one that you're currently seeing on your screen now. Again, we're going to click our eye here. This is showing FCC data. So this is the data that broadband providers give to the FCC to say, hey, here's where here's what broadband access looks like across the state. And so what you'll notice is when we start layering this, so the broadband provider reported data with this second layer here, which is showing households with no or slow internet, the self-reported data, they don't match. So what that's telling us in parts across the state is maybe what the broadband providers are saying, where they're saying there's broadband access, isn't maybe necessarily matching what folks on the ground are experiencing. And since it's this FCC data that helps to influence maybe where some of these broadband funding projects are happening, that's important to know. And so I think I'm just going to highlight a community. I'm going to highlight Garden City here to kind of show you where this might be happening across the state. And again, the FCC data we've got here is from 2023. The American Community Survey data is from 2021. So there's certainly some discrepancies here, but really this is a great illustration of how the tool can be used for further research to help identify opportunities, places like that as well. So we're going to click on Finney County here. And in fact, I'm actually going to zoom in just a little bit. So again, you'll see Finney County. If we click on it here, looking at this FCC data, we're going to give it a minute just to pull up because I want to see what the actual percentage is. Come on. It's dark green, so we're going to assume it's around that more than 98% area. But, well, if it takes a little minute to pull up, that's okay. But we'll assume, given the color, it's around over 98% of people in Finney County, according to the broadband provider data, have access to broadband. And so we're going to deselect that. We're going to pull up our households with no or slow internet, and you'll actually see that dark pink piece there. There's parts of Finney County, particularly over here in Western Garden City, where if we click on, there we go, on this specific census tract, you'll see that we have about 1,700 households in that area, and that we've got about 25% of households in this area with no or slow internet. So that is not necessarily matching what the broadband providers are providing to the FCC. And what we'll do is we're going to zoom out here. This is a really great map to highlight that swipe feature that I showed last time with the childcare data. So we're going to highlight these two data sets here, click on our tools, click on our swipe. And so you'll start to see as you swipe through here, you're going to look, okay, these dark green areas, and then maybe see, then there are other areas within that where there is some dark pink as well. I'm seeing, again, looking at Ellis County, maybe I see some activity over here on the left-hand side of the state, things like that. So, and again, this is meant to be a tool to help further research. If you're wanting to really explore the broadband piece of it, definitely do some digging and look into additional data sources as well. But this can be a really great starting point to sort of explore what's happening with the broadband landscape across the state. And what you'll also notice is it's not a rural specific problem or an urban specific problem. You'll see this trend in both areas across the state. So I think with that, I'm going to stop my screen share here. And then now, Greg, would you like to walk them through kind of the report feature to accompany that?
Yeah, definitely. I'll go ahead and share that here.
And while Greg's getting that pulled up, I just thought I'd mention there have been instances where we've done some customization for different groups. Jennifer and Greg mentioned that we did have regionalization for the Cardo regions in Kansas. We have some legislative districts. And so if you do have something in particular, reach out to the three of us. If there's something, or if there's a way in which we can format information, we've done some strategic projects with the Kansas Department of Commerce, looking at, things like World Cup coming to Kansas, business support in that KC metro area. So just if you have anything in particular, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll think about some of the capacity we have on our team to be able to help you out.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. So yeah, let's kind of jump in and show off a little bit more of the report. So just to keep on that broadband topic, let me see here. So there's two kind of pieces of data I wanted to copy from that directly. And I'll go ahead and go to the All Things Kansas report again. And there's a county in southwestern Kansas, Finney County. It's one of our favorites that I think really shows off the differences here well. So go ahead and select that. And in terms of data indicators, there's a lot of different ways to go at it, but I'll just go ahead and type in here. And I believe those indicators were broadband access and then broadband access households with no or slow internet. So we can kind of compare these indicators directly here in our report feature. So we've got a report being generated, we've got our locations, and here's those numbers directly here where really it's saying Finney County is at 99.98. And that's what that data is saying from FCC as submitted by people who provide broadband. And here's what people are reporting is that about 11% of folks are reporting, or 12% really, that they have no or slow internet. So this is just kind of looking at that same data, but in a report kind of format and kind of with some graphs here. So I just wanted to pull that up really quickly just to show it off. And I'll go ahead and show off one other feature for the report, which would be the source and methodology. So this is a nice little way to dive into those sources and how that data was collected. So we can see here for the broadband access, internet service providers provided data to the FCC. That's kind of how that data was created. And you might need this for developing a methodology section for your grant. or just to explain what the data means while you're giving it in context. And then we can see that same kind of thing from the American Community Survey, giving a really detailed methodology of how they collected these data. So data on internet access were obtained from housing question 9 and 10 in this case. So really kind of a nice feature to allow you to drill down and get those details related to that. And I don't think we have too many other features. There are just kind of some general features here. You can kind of cut it down a little bit, and you can remove the state from the report feature. You can maybe only show indicators. Let's say you have a very broad report, only show indicators that are better than the state average, only show indicators that are worse than the state average. We really have all these features to help people get to the data. It takes a long time to kind of pull data off different platforms and to formulate different hypotheses about what you want from the data. So we're really trying to streamline that process and get that data into your hands as soon as we can. So I think that's all I had for this particular topic.
Yeah, Greg, do we want to walk people through the we could do build your business and build your food business page, and then pull up the Mentimeter and kind of walk through some of those topic areas too?
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just share again. So yeah, just to kind of go through, I think we briefly touched these on the start, but we're building some reports in here that we feel like are really going to be useful for folks, especially as we get feedback for how people are using the platform. So in terms of the build your business reports, we have kind of a general build your business in Kansas and then a build your food business in Kansas. And these reports, the build your business one is pretty broad, I would say, but it can really give a cool kind of overview across a lot of different data layers. And it's kind of a nice pre-built report. If you don't want to go and search and make a map that has all these data layers, you can just see kind of a quick breadth of migration in young adults, aggregate income, non-farm average income, business patterns in terms of employment, just a lot of different data that can be put on here and then kind of compared and toggled with other data. So I would mention the platform really shines, I think, when you are comparing those multiple data layers. We've gone off a few examples here. For example, the broadband differences. When you're really comparing those sources directly, you can really understand a good picture of what's happening on the ground. So just to kind of show off the build your food business page a little bit here. That was kind of a general build your business page. And then we have some data and assets that we think will be useful for people who are trying to build a more food-based kind of business. So SNAP authorized retailers, if you're looking for outputs for your business, folks to maybe sell your food product, or maybe you're trying to develop a food product and you want to use the food assets that are in your area. And then there is also kind of reports with both those that can be generated. So I don't think we have a ton of time to dive into these. I really want to leave plenty of time for folks to ask questions. So I'll go ahead and switch over to the Mentimeter screen. But please, if you have any questions or if you have any comments or anything on the platform, it's a great time to let us know.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So hopefully everyone here, you're seeing the Mentimeter up on your screen. For some reason, Greg, the QR code isn't showing up anymore on my screen, but maybe we can, there it is. Maybe we can also toss the link in the chat too. But I think what we'll do as well is, to be totally honest with all of you, this is the part where Greg and I are a little bit vulnerable in that, again, there's 30,000 data layers with this platform. We're not experts in all these topic areas. We're going out and we're trying to find the data sets that are relevant and helpful to all of you. So we would love to hear, I see kind of housing and transportation, healthcare listed in here. We can walk through a couple of those topic areas and show what we have in the platform. And then if you think that, if hey, I do a lot of work in housing and you're missing this crucial data set in your platform, let us know, put it in the chat, and then we'll work to incorporate that kind of data to the platform so that we can make this as helpful as possible to all of you. So yeah, Greg, how would you kind of like to tackle this? I could share my screen and maybe walk through like a housing and healthcare map in the gallery, and then would you want to pull up the map room and we could kind of see what's available there too?
Sure. Yeah, I've got this
Oh,
pulled up,
perfect.
but I just wanted to show it off really quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think that sounds good. I'll let you switch over here in a second, but I just wanted to show off there's a couple different ways to go after data in the map room. So you can browse by topic, you can browse by source, or you can put in a keyword into the search bar. So just like Google, that's a great way to get after the data. But I think for a broad topic like housing, it can be nice to use these topic areas because it will allow you to see things related to households, things related to housing units, and just uh, a wide variety of data that can be on there that might not be caught by a keyword search, for example. So for folks who did put in housing, what were some of the data that you wanted to see, or what was something you wanted to explore related to housing? See, I'm seeing affordability in the chat here. So let's see if we can find something like that. I think looks like there's some subsidized housing location data here. And this would be point data here. So kind of showing the locations of subsidized housing across the state. And I apologize, it's a little tiny here. I
Well,
might have,
and Greg, I might also be able to, I know we have a map in the map gallery that does housing affordability too, multi-layers too, so we could pull that up here in a bit too.
yeah, why don't we just go ahead and switch over to that? I think that
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah,
If you want to pull that up, that'd be great. I
absolutely.
can kind of search some of these topics here and maybe develop
Yeah.
some maps in the back here while you talk.
That sounds great, Greg. Yeah. So we'll go back to the map gallery over here. I know that housing was one of them listed. So, and also water. So we have several different water data maps on here as well. We had one over there about watersheds. You'll see some hearing about different kinds of waterways. I'm gonna keep scrolling through here until we find our housing costs map here. So if we pull that one up, again, there's a lot of different ways to tackle this, right? This is a pre-made map we put together with several different data layers. If you went back to the map room, the way Greg was showing as well, you can search for and sort of customize specifically what you're interested in. But this is pulling primarily American Community Survey data. We've got several different layers here showing rent, showing cost burdened households. So I think, Scott, you'd mentioned that affordability piece. This would be a really great data layer to show that as well. And then what's interesting about this map is we're taking this rent piece, this cost burdened households piece, and then we've also added a layer that's showing population below the poverty line. So now we're starting to paint a picture of, okay, where are maybe some parts across the state where we have a large population living below the poverty line, and then how does that compare with our cost burdened households? That sort of piece as well. And so you can kind of begin to get a feel for what might be happening across the state. I don't want to take up too much time with this, but again, this might be a good map to use that swipe feature and kind of tell a story of what's happening across the state as well. If I go back to this map gallery here, I know there was some other questions about water, and I wanted to highlight just a few more of those. And then I saw brain drain on there as well. So we've got a map to kind of highlight some of that. Again, we've got our waterways here. We've got maps with aquifers. I know we also had a piece in the chat about healthcare. So there's this healthcare vulnerability index and hospital locations map that again is pulling some different data sets there as well. So that one might be worth exploring. And then bear with me here. I feel like there were a few more water ones I wanted to highlight as well. And we are in the process of working with several partners across the state who are doing really great work in the water area to sort of figure out how can we partner together and work to build out water data that could really, really help folks. So drought, we've got the drought risk map here. That was the other one I was thinking of. The other one I wanted to show, because someone had asked about brain drain. We have this map that's showing net migration of young adults. And so what this is doing is we've got 3 data sets here, and this is an interesting piece to show historical data and trends over time. So the 3 data layers with this map are, we've got point layer, point data showing higher education facilities across the state. I'm going to deselect that. And then we've got 2 layers here from the University of Wisconsin showing net migration of young adults who are either leaving or coming into a specific area. So you'll see we've got a data set from 2010 to 2020, and then one from 2000 to 2010. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight both of these. And then if we go over to this swipe tool again, so if we go with this data set first, so this is showing 2000 to 2010, and you'll see particularly up here in Northwest Kansas, some dark orange. So that means we've got a more than 20% decrease of young adults living in that area. So we've got maybe some brain drain happening in some of these areas of the state. And you can, again, click on that and see, okay, looking at Sheridan County here, we've got about 206 young adults aged 20 to 39 who've left the area in that time period. But then what's interesting is when we start to swipe over to the second data set, which is showing 2010 to 2020, all of a sudden we're starting to see some light purple up here in Northwest Kansas. So we're starting to see an increase in young adults in that area. And of course, again, we're just looking straight at the data. There could be multiple reasons behind that happening. It could be maybe the population is smaller to begin with, and so that percentage is changing. Could be that there's some great work happening in Northwest Kansas and young adults are coming back, and we want to know more about what's behind that. And so I think that's important because it shows how this platform can really help with identifying opportunities across the state, seeing what's happening in different pockets, and seeing, hey, there's a really great story of something that's happening up here in Northwest Kansas. I want to know more, that kind of a thing. So yeah, I think with that, I'm kind of trying to keep tabs on that Mentimeter. Greg, would you like to show a few more pieces?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen here. I think you did a great job covering a lot of the topics. All those maps are awesome. I just wanted to point out, for those folks who did kind of have an interest in healthcare data, it looks like we do actually have quite a bit of health data, from county health rankings to health policies to health behaviors, just to access to care itself. So I think, yeah, this is maybe a sector where we actually are pretty flush with data, which is always nice to see for these live demos. But I don't have too much to go into here. For folks who did put the health care data, if anyone wants to kind of offer anything that they were interested in, I think there's quite a bit we could kind of explore together. If not, that's okay too, but just wanted to offer on that. So maybe we could see here access to primary care and look at the uninsured populations and kind of see how those data play out and what kind of story we see here. So for 2 data layers like this, where we have layers over the same county, that swipe tool can be really useful to allow you to see kind of the differences. So I'll zoom out here a little bit. And on the right here, we can see the uninsured population. So darker would mean more uninsured folks in that area. And then as we swipe over on the left here, we can see access to primary care providers. So darker here would mean more access. So kind of looking at, looks like we have kind of a need for greater insurance for our populations in southwestern Kansas. And as we swipe over, we can see that the access does kind of start to get a little bit lower here, lighter colors in this region of the state, but it's not necessarily, super uniform, I would say. So maybe there's more of a nuanced story to be had here. Looks like the access or the uninsured population is fairly regionalized, kind of on the border there. But again, I'm not an expert in this data, so please don't quote me on anything in here. But I think there was a couple chats here, so I'll just check really quick.
Yeah, while you're checking that out, I'll interject again. So our team, we have purchased some large touchscreen TVs, and they are mobile, and we're actually going to set one up in the Sedgwick County Extension office, kind of out in that lobby area. So if you have a group or a conference and you would like for us to come do a demo, please reach out. We also have the ability to, to do things on Zoom as well. So we've spoken to Chamber of Commerce's, we've spoken to a lot of research and extension, and actually all of our extension agents, especially brand new ones who are onboarding, get to go through the All Things Kansas demo training at the same time. So if it's not directly us, we're working on deploying out the training out across the entire state.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. I think we have about 5 minutes left here, so would love to, as Greg mentioned, we'd love to answer any questions you all have, any pieces where you think we could continue to improve the platform. Greg and Jessica, maybe we could also throw our contact information in the chat too, and we would just tell all of you, feel free to reach out, if you have a topic area you'd like us to help you explore, if you'd like us to come and do an in-person or a virtual demo with a group of people in your community, anything like that, we're happy to do that. Perfect. Thanks, Jessica. And maybe while we're waiting for other questions to come in, Greg, we did have a question about any data on suicide deaths in some different parts, and I know we've got some CDC data on that, so I thought maybe we could pull up and I'm happy to do it. I don't know if you don't want to do it, pull up the map room and kind of see what we've got there, and we can kind of show that really quick, see if there's any other questions, and then wrap up for the day.
That sounds great. Yeah, I'm kind of looking that up. I think I found deaths of despair data and suicides data, but deaths of despair data from the CDC is newer, so maybe that's kind of the data set. I did want to mention really quick to Scott's question about the housing assessment tool from the Department of Commerce. I haven't looked at this deeply. I was just kind of looking at it now. And I think this does seem like a good kind of synergy between data that could be generated from the report and the housing assessment tool. And we do have a good relationship with the Department of Commerce and have collaborated with them on other projects. So I think this maybe seems like a natural avenue to pair together. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I can share my screen really quick here and kind of point out, let's pull off this data here. And I think that's the despair data is probably going to get after that suicide question, but it doesn't look like the data is super rich here. I have a feeling those grays, less than 10 deaths are data suppressed. So let's check out this other data layer just to see what it is. Suicides, this is also CDC data. Yeah, it looks like we are kind of missing a lot of data. So depending on where you're looking, this might supply the information you need for your particular county, but maybe this isn't the richest data set since all those gray counties don't appear to have data associated with them.
Yeah, that might be an area, especially as we work to incorporate some of the ALICE data as well and some data from the other sources. We might be able to pull in some additional content there as well. But this is really helpful for us too, because we kind of see how we can continue to improve the platform, and we know how folks like you would want to use it as well. So appreciate that question, and we can kind of look into that a little bit more on our end.
Yeah, and it looks like we have a lot of different suicide death related data. So, this one actually appears to be fairly rich and fairly recent. So if I were to recommend any of them, I would say this would probably be your best bet, this kind of CDC NCHS data from September 23 to August 24.
Perfect.
But yeah, I really appreciate all the input on the Mentimeter and all the feedback. That's super useful for us. So thank you again for that.
Yeah, I think that kind of wraps up our portion. Again, feel free to ask any questions and reach out to us after the presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions or walk through any features. And thanks so much, everyone, for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Jennifer, Greg, and Jessica. So much information. That's a wonderful tool to have in our back pocket. So thank you for sharing all that.
It's been a really fun project to work on, and the fact that it's alive and it's iterative and we get to do fun calls like this, and we've got notes here off to the side that are going to help us plug in more information.
Perfect. Before we let you go, Nancy has a few things she would like for us to share. The Connecting Communities Conference offers a dynamic embedded session held within local businesses and venues across a 4-block radius in the downtown Kingman area. Conference participants will be able to network with like-minded entrepreneurs, industry experts, and resources provided who can help overcome challenges and explore new opportunities. Jan's going to drop that link in the chat, so feel free to click on that to learn about the conference, as well as view the agenda and lodging options. It's only $100 for a small business owner, so please share with your small business owner friends, or better yet, if you have the opportunity, to offer them a scholarship to attend. Our next Remote Work Wednesday is coming up next Wednesday on June 11th, focused on unplugging and recharging in the remote work environment. Nancy has a few grant writing basic classes coming up here in the future. If you're interested in an online course, she has one scheduled for June 10th and 12th. Jan will drop that link in the chat as well. But if you're a person that likes to attend an in-person training, she has an in-person grant training workshop scheduled for June 11th in Junction City. If you have a statewide event you would like to promote, please send it to Nancy and she will put it in the First Friday message or meeting notice, which currently goes out to over 1,600 Kansans each month. We have a partnership with the Kansas Leadership Training Center, so if you do not have access to that, please become a KSRE partner with that link in the chat as well. If you would like to promote any of these events on your social media or newsletter, please send an email to ksrecv@ksu.edu. That email address is also in the chat. Our next call, many communities have geographic mobility and over 20%, meaning over 1 in 5 people have moved in the last year. So what is the data in your community? Join us on our special call scheduled for July 11th, not on July 4th like it is originally scheduled for. So we're going to bump that back a week because of the holiday. It's going to be focused on creating welcoming communities. So according to the U.S. Census, almost 14% of Kansas moved to a different home this year. About half of them have moved into a different county, state, or country. So how can we make them feel more welcome and engaged in our community? And as always, Nancy likes to end the call with a thought for the day. So the thought she left for us is from Edward Demings. Without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you hanging out with us and learning about this great tool that we have to offer.